What's up, everyone? This is Myles Munroe Jr., your host, and I want to welcome you to the new episode of the Myles High Podcast. As you know, the vision and goal of this pod is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist, knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right? Got a good pod today. Got a quick, nice little topic I want to discuss. Something that I feel is relevant, something that I experienced a couple of years ago, quite a number of years ago, not a couple. And I just wanted to share it, right? So I wanted to talk and discuss today about no expectations, no disappointments, right? We have all of these disappointments in life because we set so much expectations for ourselves and for persons around us, right? We live in this new age, this technological age where everything is just quick, right? We're doing things quickly. We want things done yesterday. We want instant gratification with the things that we do, the things that we apply ourselves to. And we set high expectations for things that, should take time. And when it doesn't happen in the time that we wanted to, we get disappointed, right? So, the world is filled with expectations, right? There's expectations with our success. There's expectations with marriage. There's expectations with childbearing. There's expectations in friendships. There's expectations in relationships. And there's expectations in business, right? We have all of these expectations placed on all of these areas of our lives. And, it's super unnecessary, especially from a personal standpoint, when we kind of set expectations for ourselves and those around us. I think back to when we were kids, right? We all had that mantra of like, we don't have no worries, or in Bahamian vernacular, I ain't got no worries, right? French Montana got one song go, I ain't got no worries. I ain't got no. Anyway, yeah, let's not get distracted. But, we didn't have any worries, man. We, as kids, especially as young kids, right? We approached life with no fear, no doubts, right? We just kind of did things how we wanted to do, when we wanted to do it, right? Like I remember this, I came across this video recently of this little boy and his dad, right? They were at home. His dad was recording his son, or who appeared to be his son, on a phone, right? And this little boy had a towel tied around his neck, right? And he was at the top of a flight of stairs. And that's how the video started. And literally all you saw was this image fly from the top of the stairs to the bottom of the stairs, right? And this little boy got up and he tried to play it off like he wasn't hurt, but you could clearly see that he was hurt. Like he was in pain. He stood up and like looked at his dad and tried to like hold on to the wall and just be like, yo, I'm fine. Like in his mind or in his mannerisms, tried to be like, yo, I'm fine. Like I'm cool. I'm good. And his dad looked at him like, yo, are you all right? And he was like, yep. He said, I bet you won't try that crap again, right? He was like, I'm okay. I'm all right. But clearly he was hurt, right? But I bring that up just to say, like, children are fearless, man. Like, I'm sure in his mind, he probably watched some cartoons or a movie where, a caped crusader was able to fly through the air. So he was trying to mimic that, and he put this towel around his neck and was like, yo, if I just leap, this cape could do something and could help me, glide my way down to the bottom of the stairs. But that didn't work out, right? And, that's the fearlessness that we should try to revive in our lives, right? How we approach things, how we approach life, it should be with no expectations, right? We're just taking a leap, and I'm not saying to do it where we're harming ourselves or we're putting ourselves in a bad situation, but really just not thinking about the outcome, just thinking about the process. That's kind of what I want to discuss, right? Because like, picture us as kids, right? I'm sure all of us have like either younger brothers or sisters or younger cousins or like some kids that we've been around before, right? And say you put a kid on top of a counter, right? And you hold your hand out to that kid can't be more than, let's say, 2-3 years old. and you hold your hand out and you say, jump, that kid isn't going to hesitate. He isn't going to think about it, especially if like you have a relationship with this kid, like it's your family member or someone that you're close to. Like the kid is just going to jump. He isn't going to think twice about it. He is expecting you to jump and catch him because like you're the older person there, you're the authoritative person, you're the family member, you're the person that has his best interest or supposed to have the kid's best interest at hand, right? And so he's just going to leap, and there's no expectation of disappointments. There's no expectations of him being caught. I mean, well, there is an expectation of him being caught, but he's not thinking about it, right? He's just jumping because he knows that, you know, I have this adult in the front of me or this older person in the front of me, and I expect to be safe, right? But then, you know, we go through the process of growing up and living life a little bit, and we experience, you know, failures, we experience obstacles in our lives, we experience defeat, and then, you know, fear and doubt start to creep into our lives as we get older, right? Our first experience with failure, our first experience with disappointment, it causes us to have these fears and these doubts of these outcomes, right? The things that we're experiencing. And it could be detrimental to our advancement, right? Because it could stagnate us. You know, I always try to look at my perspective of life is that it's not linear, right? I've seen this diagram quite a number of times where there's point A and point B on a piece of paper, and on one side of the diagram there's a straight line drawn from point A to point B, and then on the next side of the diagram there's like more squiggly lines drawn between point A and B, right? It's not a straight line. Like you see lines go up, you see lines go down, you see lines go straight, you see lines go backward, you see lines make a 360, you see lines make a 180. You see all of these like curvatures in the line and these route that this line takes until it eventually gets to B, but it's not as linear as the first diagram. And that's kind of how life is, right? Life isn't just one straight shot, just one straight blueprint to where we're going to achieve things the way we want to achieve them, how we want to achieve them, right? Life throws a lot of obstacles at us. We get a lot of limes and lemons and the things that we experience, and it's up to us to figure out like how we respond to all of these obstacles, all of these challenges that we go through every time we experience life. And I wanted to kind of just share my advice, right, and my experiences on how to deal with not having or not setting any expectations. I feel that in order for us, or if we don't want to be disappointed in many aspects or many areas of our lives, then we shouldn't set expectations, right? Because as long as you don't have any expectations, then it's going to be really hard for you to be disappointed. So things that I've done, one of the first things that I think we all need to do is differentiate between expectations and goals, right? A lot of times when we set goals for our lives, we should look at goals as just the end point, right? And we need to focus more on the journey of getting there, or how we're going to achieve these goals, not the expectations of how that goal is going to be achieved or what is going to be experienced once that goal is achieved. I think the focus should be more on the journey, right? So differentiate between expectations and goals. We should all set goals, short-term goals, long-term goals. We should put strategies in place for us to achieve our goals. But when it comes to expectations, that's when we put a should, right? We put a should next to our goals. If I do this, then I should achieve this. Or if I do things this way or accomplish this thing, then this should happen, right? And that sets expectations. So when that should doesn't happen, disappointment sets in. So, you know, the key here is to ensure that we're always and constantly differentiating between expectations and goals. Goal setting is important, but we should never put expectations towards our goals. We should leave it wide open and focus more on the process. The next thing is, don't compare yourself to others. I think this is really relevant in this day and age, especially, you know, with the technological advances that we've experienced, especially on social media, right? No one everyone only shows their highlights in their lives, especially when they post it on social media, right? You don't see the bad times, the hard times, the failures, the defeats that they go through. Everyone just posts the good stuff, the nice trips, the nice gifts, the nice experience that they have in life. And we're looking at this as an audience, and we're comparing ourselves, right? We're saying, man, this person who I know and we came from the same place, and they have this in their life and I don't have it in mine, and I'm a failure, and I'm just not a success. I'm just disappointed and distraught with myself, right? But we don't see what these people go through, the real life, the reality that they have to live to get, to see the things that they're displaying. And sometimes these things aren't even real, right? They put up this facade of like, this is what I'm doing, I'm living life, I'm doing great or whatever, for you to look at it and feel some type of way, right? But I think the focus should always be on ourselves. We should go through life with blindfolds on, right? It's okay to look at, it's okay to admire, but we should never dwell on or focus on someone else's journey or someone else's success, because we never know what people have to go through or what they are going through, even behind those images, behind those videos, behind those short clips of a glimpse in their life where there's just a bigger picture behind all of that, right? And I think once we start to focus on ourselves, then we put less expectations on us being able to achieve what others achieve, and a lot more focus on the journey of what we can do with our own purpose-lived life, right? The next thing is have no expectations of others. I think this is probably one of the most important things we could do when we're talking about minimizing expectations so you minimize disappointments, or eliminating expectations so you eliminate or try to minimize disappointments. I remember when my parents had passed, right? And I had the opportunity to have a meal with Derek Luke and his wife. And he was telling me how much my dad had done for him early on in his career, like when he made the decision to be an actor, right, and to go all in with his belief in himself and acting. And he read my dad's book, Unleash Your Purpose, and that book like really did something to him, and he was just able to like focus himself and really focus in on like what he was trying to achieve, and put his all into it. Right. And we was just having this conversation, and this was like a year after my parents had passed. And we was having a conversation, and I was expressing to him like some of the challenges I was having at the time. And a lot of it had to do with like the people that were around me. Right. And just like the disappointments that, I had, or that I was experiencing from them. Right. Because, some of them have been individuals who have been around for like so long and have been good friends of my parents, and I've known them for years, and they were doing things, and certain things are being said and done that just were disappointing me. And I had made a statement to him, like, I was like, man, I don't know how my dad used to do it, right? My dad used to have these individuals around him who clearly had ulterior motives, right? And who didn't really have his or our family's best interests at heart. And that's something I realize now that's pretty normal, right? Everyone is really going to fend for themselves when it comes to life and their advancement in it, right? And their betterment of it. And Derek Luke said something to me that resonated with me. It actually wasn't something that I heard for the first time, because my dad used to say it all the time, and what used to tell me it as well, right? But I guess I never really paid too much attention to it. But when he said it, and we kind of had a discussion about it, it really hit home with me at that point. And we discussed Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6, right? And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path, right? And I was just having this issue with like, man, my dad had all of these people around him. Like, how did he do it? Like, I'm not able to do it, man. I can't I don't know how I can be around people who like just aren't who they say they are. And man, he recited this verse to me and just was like, man, this is what your dad used. This is what he did. Like, I know it for sure. And I was like, man, you know what? It was crazy. Like, my dad used to quote this verse all the time. We used to have a discussion about this verse. At least he used to quote this verse to me all the time. And, you know, for some reason, it was at that point, like the verse really started to make sense, right? The trust that we have should never be in people, right? People are going to fail us 100% of the time because we're imperfect individuals. You know, I fail people around me fail me, right? The trust should never be in people. Our trust should be in God. And I think once our trust is founded in God and we look to him to get all knowledge and understanding about the situations and the individuals around us, then our trust in him, it is greater than any expectations or any circumstances that could happen in any of our circles, right? Because we're focusing on God, right? And God is guiding us through the paths of life, the journey of life that we go through, the successes, the failures, the rewards, the disappointments, all of these things that we go through in life. He's guiding us, right? Because our trust is in him. So even if someone is in our life for an ulterior motive, right? For something that's benefiting them and not really having our best interests at hand, I think once we focus in on God, right, and what God wants us to get out of that relationship, then them doing whatever it is that they're going to do eventually, there's no disappointments involved because we're focusing on him. And man, that verse just changed my whole perspective moving forward. So from that day to now, like there's just, I'm able to deal with people on such a different level, right? Because I have no expectations of individuals around me, right? I expect everyone to be human, to be imperfect, you know, to maybe you having a bad day or a bad week or a bad year and you decide to make certain decisions that you feel need to be made that it's going to affect me negatively, but you in a positive way, maybe. I can't fault you for that, right? And there's no disappointments involved. I think the expectation should be that humans aren't perfect, right? I think that should be the only expectation that we have. And I think that puts us in a different mindset, right? On a different level when it comes to how we relate and how we interact with others, because it allows us to, like I said, not put our trust in an individual person, right? Like with the friends that I have around me, I used to have these expectations of like, because we've been around each other so long, all of us kind of know each other and we know like how each other thinks and what each other likes and like we like to be on time. Let's try to be on time. Let's try to organize things a certain way and let's like do what it is that we say we're going to do. And I used to get disappointed a lot, right? Because like fellas would be late. Fellas wouldn't keep their word on everything that they say. And I started to realize like, man, we're just all different individuals, right? And I think once I started to change my perspective, I kind of coined this term between like me and all of my friends, right? And it was just, you got to know your boys. You have to know your boys. You have to understand the people that are around you. You have to understand like their character build up, their likes, their dislikes, what motivates them, what orientation they have personally and professionally, what their goals and visions are on a personal level, on a professional level, on a spiritual level. And once you bring all of these things to the forefront, right, then you create an expectation of who they are, right, and what you should and shouldn't expect them to do and not do. And I think once I did that, like that totally changed my relationship with my friends, right? I think I was more relaxed in certain situations, like not allowing certain outcomes or certain situations to get to me in certain ways because, I was just able to just kind of not expect them to do anything, right? I just allowed things to happen. And as they happen, we kind of dealt with it. So having no expectation of others is like super important. And I think, that verse, Proverbs chapter 2, verse 5 to 6, like I think that's Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. Like that's a verse that I remind myself of on a consistent basis because it's helped me so much to this point. Go ahead, babe.
So my question is, I partially disagree with you because when you say you don't have expectations of someone, does that mean that you are lowering your standard? So if you set a standard for yourself and people fall short of that standard, I mean, I feel like in a way that, doesn't serve you at a certain point in your life.
Yeah, but you just said it. I said a standard for myself. The standard that I set for myself can't be a standard that I set for someone else. That's just not fair. Right?
So you don't think that there should be people around you or people you work with, interact, people you love that should be on the same standard as you?
No, I think from a broad view, yes. Like I think broadly, we all should kind of hover around like the same plane, right? And we think we have a certain type of mindset. We have certain goals that align, certain visions that align. But I'm talking just from a realistic standpoint, right? We're all human. And there are things that someone may do that we don't agree with. But I'm not going to tie myself to any person or any decision that someone is going to make that is going to affect my outlook on life or my experience in my life, because then I'm allowing someone else's, or I'm allowing my expectation of someone else to affect me, right?
But what if that person paints an expectation that should be in line with you?
Yeah, even if they paint it, like I'm still like, people could say as anything that they want to say, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they're going to commit to or that's what they're going to do. Like, for example, when you say, like, we had a discussion how you change your mind every so often, right? So initially my expectation was if my wife says something that she wants to do something or is going to do something, I would expect her to do that. But then when that changes, I got disappointed. But if I now come into it with the knowledge of I have to allow her, like she's the type of person to change her mind on a consistent basis, right? So once I know that, even if I don't change my mind, if I say something and you do, if I allow you to be who you are and not try to convert you to who I am, then there aren't going to be much disappointments between us because I'm going to allow you to be able to make those changes and make those decisions.
So what you're saying is there should be levels of expectation. I
mean, so let's not focus on the word expectations, right? Because I'm sure like we expect people around us to be a certain way, to act a certain way, to do certain things, right? But what I'm saying is our trust shouldn't be in those individuals. Like regardless of the decisions that they make, the outcome or the results of those decisions shouldn't affect us in a negative way. Like I shouldn't not like a group of individuals because one person disappointed me in a certain way, right? I'm not putting my trust in particular individuals or singular individuals. I'm putting my trust in God and going through this situation, and regardless of what happens, I'm like, He's going to guide me on how to figure it out. Like I'm not gonna like when I tell you my dad had this down to a T, like I'm talking like on levels where like we had an individual who stole money from our organization. I'm talking like 6 figures type money, and the level of forgiveness, not even just forgiveness, but the level of like, I don't care about it, right? I still love this person. I still want to be around this person. I still want this person to be a part of like what we're doing. Like me looking at it was like, yo, Daddy, I think you're crazy. Like I don't understand like how you could be this calm and cool and collected in this situation. And I always like think about that situation when I think about Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, because that's exactly like what my dad did in that situation. Like his trust, his expectation wasn't in people. It was in God. It was in, his creator. And I think spiritually, once he aligned himself properly, there's nothing that, an individual could do that could affect him in a negative way. And I think, again, that's how I feel like we should do. We shouldn't place any expectations in others. I think the trust that we have in individuals should lie with God, should be founded on our spiritual relationship with God. And I think once we start there, that's the benchmark for, I think, anything that we can experience in life, right? The fourth thing is, and I think, again, this is something that I always mention, prepare for change. Change is the only constant in life. We can be guaranteed that how things are operating and working today is not going to be the same this time next year, right? We live in a seasonal life. We live our life in seasons. So there are always going to be changes. And I think as long as we prepare ourselves for these changes, expect these changes to happen, know that they're going to happen, know that we're not going to have control over the things that change, I think the preparation that we have then will allow us to be able to pivot and pivot much sooner and much better than, not being prepared for these changes. I just think, like, because we constantly change, because things constantly change around us, and if we're prepared for it, there's nothing that we won't be able to accomplish, nothing that we won't be able to overcome, right? Because people in our lives are going to pass. We're going to lose. We may lose our jobs. We may lose our ways of earning for our family. We may lose a loved one. Like, all of these things that we have no control over, but we can prepare for, right? Even if you just prepare yourself mentally and start to do things maybe in your physical life that allows you to be able to adapt and pivot when these different changes happen. I think it's inevitable, right? So change, always be prepared for it. And then the last thing is to trust the process. Trust the process. Just, as you go through life, as you set these goals, trust the journey that you're on. You will fail. You are going to experience defeat, but you will experience some success. You will experience some good things, right? Some of these great experience that we have when things go the right way. But we should also expect the process that we go through not always to work out the way that we want it to. So focusing on the process instead of the end goal or the outcome, you just got to trust it. Trust that everything that happens, it happens for a reason. I mentioned in one of my last posts, like, the preparation period that we go through is preparing us for the next promotion in our life. So this process that we're going through, this process is the preparation, right? This journey of life, we got to trust it. Trust everything that happens, because everything happens for a reason. All right. So, these are just some keys, some principles that I use to try and diminish the disappointments that I experience in life, because I really don't set any expectations, right? I just set goals and I try to work at achieving them. And hopefully, you're able to pull one of these or two of these into your life and the way that you do things, and it will assist you the same way. All right. So this is the part of the pod now where I leave with you a milestone, right? And for this milestone, I wanted to take it to the good book. I think a lot of the things that we learn and are able to do in life comes from the book. A lot of the things that we're able to be successful at life, we can find in the book, right? So this milestone comes from Philippians 1 verse 6. And it says, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. And what that simply means is, man, everything that we go through in life, regardless of what it is, regardless of how bad it is, regardless of how great it is, God is going to make things work out according to his will, right? And things are going to be okay, regardless of what it is. Like, you could imagine, losing a loved one that you didn't expect to lose, losing a job, losing some part of your livelihood where you aren't able to do things the way that you used to be able to do it, right? There's been this crisis or this change that you experience. As difficult as it may be, focus on the fact that all of it is going to work out for your good, and it's going to work out the way God intended it to work out, right? And that's just how it is, straight across the board. So I just kind of wanted to leave that with you. Hopefully even in those difficult times, you remember Philippians 1 verse 6, and it allows you to push through and make it through anything that you're experiencing. All right. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this episode. This is a good one. This is one that I talk to myself about on a consistent basis, so that I'm able to really not expect anything from anyone or anything in my life. So I'm able to diminish the majority of my disappointments, right? So as you know, on this podcast, the vision and goal is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist, always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. Until next time, you guys stay blessed.